Yeah, this is our first session of the year. We are the Advanced Hire kind of STACS team. We wanted to look at, of course, the template changes, the templates that have come out. They just came out, what, about 3-4 weeks ago? And we also just wanted to have teachers have a chance to kind of interact a little bit more rather than us saying, you know, this is the best way to do it. We kind of wanted to know what projects pupils are coming out with and to have a little bit more of a discussion about that. I think we've got Debbie and Fiona here. They'll introduce themselves later on. They are SQA markers, and I'm sure if you speak to any SQA marker, they'll tell us that the projects were a bit of a nightmare to mark. So yeah, there's me. I'm practically head at Kings Park Secondary. I don't have an advanced hire class this year. I'm absolutely gutted. I had a great advanced hire class last year, and I'm still involved with the advanced hire team. And I'll let Fiona and Debbie introduce themselves.
Sure. So I'm Fiona. I'm at Kelvinside in Glasgow. I'm the computing teacher. And I've got a reasonable sized advanced hire. I think I've got 7 people this year, so it's not too bad because we're a small school. We've only got about 400 in the school. So 7's not too bad.
Yeah, good.
Oh, and the marking of the projects this year was the worst ever. Without exaggeration, it was the worst experience.
I know. I always feel we need to stick up for the SQA because they're going to want people to mark next year, so it should be better next year because of the templates. But anyways, yeah, this year it wasn't great.
I've just looked at this and realised I need to update it. It says, Debbie, it says I've taught advanced hire for over 24 years. It actually pains me to say that it's now 26 years.
Wow, there you go.
So you know that I'm a marker and I'm a writer as well for the advanced hire. Got a couple of other markers in the room tonight, which is brilliant. And you can please join in the conversation. There's lots of expertise here tonight.
So we often kind of gather up resources and give out swag bags and things like that, but we just thought with the so many changes that came from the SQA, if we tried to collate it all and give it all out, actually the best thing for us to do is just to highlight what the SQA have given out. That is the swag bag for this session. So the 2025 kind of SQA course report, of course, we'd recommend everybody have a look at that and see what the downfalls were of last year. We've got the coursework assessment tasks and the templates that have been published roughly about 3 weeks ago that have all been updated. We're going to be referring quite a lot to these kind of documents throughout the session. So if you haven't read them, please download them at some point and have a good look.
Absolutely.
At the end of the course report, there is whole sections on going forward, and it's really good. I found it really useful.
Okay.
Yep, and I have shared the assessment task and the templates now with my pupils. We've probably all done that. And I think so far the reaction from my guys has been quite positive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one now.
So in this one, I just took the main changes in the course assessment task just to highlight them out there. So we know that the option, the first one, the blue one at the left-hand side, we know that the option to combine SDD and WDD has been removed. So that one's completely gone. The template last year wasn't mandatory. This year we're saying that it is mandatory, and they've been separated obviously into the different categories. Now, with them being mandatory, there is, I'm going to jump up to the yellow, there is a penalty that was going to be applied to the projects with more than 6 end user requirements and more than 8 additional functional requirements. So people really need to look at this and make sure that pupils are sticking with the advanced hire concepts and the advanced hire integration.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're taking questions or will I put it?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure, go for it.
I just wonder what the penalty is, how the penalty will be decided. Say you put 8 end user requirements in.
After we mark it, Maggie, I think when I spoke to to Morag about it. I think the plan would be is that decision would be that then would be is after we mark, that then would be going to those above us.
Yes,
Right,
we would mark it, but it would be highlighted, set aside as not following the template or the guidance, and then it would be above our marker pay grade.
Yeah, and I definitely think that that's maybe one of the issues going back, is that when pupils do come up with their kind of project and they're writing down the requirements, a lot of teachers kind of want the pupils to fly a little bit. You're like, yeah, go for it, you know. And a lot of teachers think the more the better, but that's not the case, because the more you've got, the more user requirements you need to design, you need to test, and if you follow
you
one
don't
or
like
two
to
of them,
squash their enthusiasm, really, do you?
Yep.
So it's important now that teachers are kind of just making sure that pupils are reining in their ideas to make sure it meets the requirements, rather than trying to become, the next Steve Wozniak.
Yep, absolutely.
Just on before we move on, Debbie, you mentioned the first purple one there about the fact that SDD, WDD has been removed. Those options have been removed. And I think that was as a result of us seeing the evidence that pupils that were candidates that were doing those had not performed well at all in them.
They didn't seem to be performing as well. So so that was taken out.
Yeah, because generally we were sort of logging the results, weren't we? To see if there was parity across the different combinations of projects, and that combination was just not. Candidates were finding it hard to access the marks, weren't they?
That's right. And the other one that we know where pupils get mixed up, the bottom pinky red one, is their persona and their test cases, and pupils not doing test cases based on the user requirements. So it's very clear now in the document that your persona should be a user that you're personifying, and that those test cases should be you testing your user requirements.
Yeah, because they have been quite what candidates have been writing has been imaginative but quite vague in many instances, haven't they?
So that's just a bit of clarification there. Right.
Okay, I shall move on.
So this one's the key change. Well, just what I think is the key bit out of the document, the CAT document. And I'm skipping the bit up the top and going down to your project must have no more than 6 end user. 4 functional requirements that are advanced higher, 3 functional that relate to integration, and then between 4 and 8 additional functional requirements. And if you look at the actual templates, you will see that they are almost filled in for you, so that what we're trying to do is make pupils, or what S2A are trying to do is make pupils go in the right direction in order to allow them to access those marks. Because if they don't get it right here, then it can have an impact later on at the later stages.
Yeah, I was looking at them today with the folks in my class, and they were looking at the functional requirements and the fact that there's already 7 of them that are filled in. Basically, they've to add the detail and fill in the gaps, haven't they?
That's right. And I had an interesting conversation with Morag about it, and what she was saying is, think of it as agile methodology, and think about it that this is the first sprint, and they can have other requirements that they would want to do at the next sprint, but that would be after they complete the project. And I think, you know what, that's a really good way of explaining that to the pupils, I think.
Yeah, it's probably a good way to try and say, look, if you want to do all this extra stuff, that's fine, but do it after you've handed this into the SQA.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't send us all that extra evidence at this point.
No.
Yeah.
Right, next one, Fiona.
Okay, I'll move on.
Just a couple of things for us to highlight. So now we know that, and I know that another couple of markers are in here. One of the common misconceptions is people not doing their advanced higher data structure with our standard algorithm, and we really need to work on making sure that the pupils know that so they can access the marks. But if we go down to the integration part here, before, if they just did a select query, then that was enough.
Yes.
But sometimes it didn't quite make sense, because they had a leaderboard and they were pulling the data in from the leaderboard, but the leaderboard was never been updated. So now we have receiving a query input. And so the user will have to make an input that will have to be validated. I think there's only a minimum of 2 input validations. One of them needs to be done on this query input. So if you've got your leaderboard, you enter the name, you get the score, and then you would send that out to the database, and then you're using your SQL select statement to bring it back in. But what's really good in this page is these examples, because I'm reading that and I'm thinking that kind of reads to me like a description.
Yeah.
If you were to take that and rewrite it with your project, it's almost like a description.
Yeah, and it fits the bill perfectly.
It does, and we've got that for each of the samples.
And
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of teachers, and I have heard this kind of echoing around, that, you know, why don't we get sample projects given out to us? And we know why, because then the SQA are going to get those sample projects handed back to them. But I think these examples within this document are about as close as we're going to get, and I think that's really good that we've got these.
I think it's very clear. We've got the bullet points, and it's going into detail. When your problem description is for the markers, so we know what we're going to mark, and that there just lays it right out. We know exactly what's going to be in the project and what we're looking for.
Yeah, we hope this will help them to steer away from the lovely descriptions that we see that talk all about the features of their game, or the lovely pictures that are going to be on their website, the images, and they write a lovely paragraph and can completely miss out on accessing those marks because they don't cover any of the mandatory requirements in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so move on.
Sorry,
Debbie, just before you move on, do you want to talk about, I know you were saying when you were marking some of the OOPS projects, a lot of the pupils were kind of falling short of the standards for object orientation.
Yeah, so one of the issues that we had found, we did get it clarified with Morag, was that when we create, and it's Python, Java, both languages, you create your class up the top and you do write class, but then you access it like a record doing the array dot the variable name. And pupils were saying that they were doing an object-oriented project.
Yes.
But they were later on then doing the array dot variable name. And that's just saying to us that they're confused between your advanced higher data structure concepts. So if you're doing an object-oriented program, inside that other class, we need to see at least the getters and the setters.
Yeah, it should be using polymorphism and pulling the data out privately rather than accessing that data directly.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I saw quite a lot of the Pygame, and they were confusing the fact that in Python we're using the data class and using the word class and saying, well, I'm using object-oriented programming, but all they're using was a data class structure. Yes. I think the other problem in Pygame was that there are many, it is object-oriented and it's been created automatically, and they haven't consciously gone and defined their class, their methods, and they haven't done any of that themselves.
Yep.
And therefore they can't get the credit for it coming when it comes to marking it.
And a lot of your children, I know, pupils, Fiona, I know that they do Pygame, but that's just something that we need to watch out for as teachers.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. My personal understanding of Pygame isn't probably strong enough, so when I've got pupils in front of me, it's not something I recommend them to do, because I don't know if I'd be able to call what was their work and what is a library that's already built into Pygame. So it's not my preference, but I know some people have managed to get successful projects from it.
Some of the projects are they're fabulous. It's amazing to see what people can do, and we don't want to stifle that too much.
No.
But we want them to access the max, and I think that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
We move on. Fiona?
Yes,
Yep.
we'll move on to the next slide. Here we
Maggie's got a question.
Okay.
I can put in the chat if that's would you rather. It is an OOP question. It's more about design though.
Go for it.
Question: if for your OOP program you've done a class diagram, do you then have to write pseudocode for the methods?
Yep.
Yeah. Right, that's fine. Good.
Yeah.
You would still have to do your pseudocode, Maggie. Yeah. What has changed, if you look at the template, and rightly so, is that you don't have to do the data flow, because of course, if you do object-oriented properly, you're going to have variables that are local to the class. So that's gone from it, which is right, because that was quite cloudy, that one. But yeah, you would still have to do your pseudocode for all your methods.
Yes, thanks.
No bother.
Okay. Right, let's move on.
Right. And then again, this is exactly the same. It's your same program, same example, except this would be with a procedural. And again, the key thing to notice is that receiving a query input. And that's all we're really pointing out with these wee bits here, just simple changes that have came.
There was an example, we were talking about this the other day, and I think maybe a lot of people quite like to hear this. I used to always talk about these projects of that if you go and get, I know a lot of people do leaderboards, if you go and get the information from the leaderboard and then you sort it, but you sort it in the programming environment rather than sorting it in the database environment, that would then allow you to use your insertion sort and your bubble sort, and you're kind of showing off that skill. Even though it makes more sense to do that sort in the database, we want to see the pupils getting the marks and
using their algorithm.
Using their algorithms. So even just pulling that raw data out without it being sorted, a general select statement, and then getting that information, sorting it in the programming environment would be good enough.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep, that's him. Access the marks, yep.
Yep.
Okay, happy with this. Any other? We'll move on.
So the only real change that's came with the database one is to make sure that we're using having. Having was, although that was one of your advanced hire. Sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Jones called. Mr. Jones is calling. Yeah, that's him in.
Right, brilliant. So although that's one of our clauses that we introduced at advanced hire, it wasn't mandatory, and that one's now mandatory. And but again, we've got the wee sample over here, a wee example, and telling you exact one way of how to use the having. I don't think pupils really find using the having clause difficult anyway, so that should be absolutely fine for them.
And a few of mine are still debating whether or not to go big database or big web, actually. So they were queries today.
Can I ask you kind of quick question, just as you guys as markers? And I always think that I think a lot of pupils probably do software development and databases.
Yes.
But I think a lot of people do that because that's what's technically available to them in the classroom. Whereas sometimes if you're doing a database as your primary, straight away you're needing, you're needing server sides, or you're needing accounts, or you're needing USB pens built, or you're needing Raspberry Pis. Do you notice that the majority of the pupils are going for kind of software style projects?
I think it's still the majority is SDD and database. What do you say, Debbie?
I'd have thought that.
I think so too. I'm happy this year to see in my class that there's a wee bit of a change coming, that a lot of people are doing, because databases is what I'm better at.
I prefer,
And I can see that. And also, I think personally, I mean, it's up to the children, and I would never, the pupils, sorry, I would absolutely never, like force them to do one. But I don't think databases is overwhelming. If you're sitting with 200 or 300 lines of code and there's an error in it, trying to find that error, whereas if you're doing databases, what's the maximum number of lines of code you've got? Where there's
exactly.
maybe 10 lines.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I do think a lot of it is the technical feasibility of the school that's stopping a lot of young people from taking that on.
I think you might be right. And again, the only real change here is to receive that query input. So it has to be an input, has to be validated, and then it's updating the database. But what I did notice on the notes, and I don't think it's in here, but I'm sure it was someplace else, was it said that your session variables, you could have that going across maybe 2 pages.
That was enough.
I think so, yes.
And that was enough. And I thought because that's a place where pupils sometimes go wrong with their session variables. So that there is maybe something for us to look at. I would go back and double check it though, but I am 99% sure that I read that.
I think you did, because up until now, by default, we've kind of, I've always thought that session variables, they'll just go across the whole website. Yeah. Must admit. I'm sure that it says 2 pages now.
Which is right.
Yeah, go for it. Sean's just raised his hand. Go for it, Sean.
Can you hear me? Am I
Yes.
So, like, I posted this earlier on STACS, but you're saying so one of the inputs has to be for the query, so that's fine. Does it matter what type of validation you're doing on these inputs? It just says validate the inputs. So say you did a length check on 2 different inputs.
See, in about 2 minutes, Sean, we've got all your questions you asked in a big slide. Thank you.
We're all organised
tonight.
Shut up then, Debbie. Thank you.
Okay, shall I move us on?
And I will quickly open up the answers.
Okay, so yes, Sean's these questions may look familiar. And we're very glad that you submitted them.
Yeah, it's always nice.
Yeah, it's good.
So obviously your first question there is about, is there a minimum number for the end user requirements? So no, as long as there's no more than 6, right?
It's just that way when like you can meet the project with 3, like, and it just looks a wee bit empty, you know.
The only thing that you need to watch for, Sean, is that they should reflect all the user interactions that the user has identified back at the UML. Because you'll know from last year that sometimes the end user requirements in the UML don't match up, and they really should. So what you want to see is that those 2 match up, and it's also what's in the problem description. But yep, if they only have 3, that's what they've got.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So can the website include features that are not in the functional requirements, or should they strictly stick to the functional requirements, no new features? Yes, they've got to stick to what they've put in the functional requirements with no new features. If you want pupils to go away afterwards and add in new features, that's absolutely fine, but don't give them to us. Or
say I was building a website. You kind of answered this earlier when you're saying, like, Morag just said draft of it, basically, a bit like a sprint. But say you're building a website and you maybe have like an about page, like the page doesn't actually do anything, you know. So, like, is it okay to have that in the project? Like, if a kid adds like an about page about their website, so it's got no actual purpose apart from some text, like, should they not do that?
I would suggest they don't do that unless they've got a space for their, you've got your additional functional requirements. If there's a space in there, stick it in there. If there's not, tell them just to leave it out.
Okay. Debbie, can I ask, just to kind of interject here, is this all to try and make marking just more manageable, and to make not just marking, but also to make the project more manageable for the kids and the markers, I guess.
It's what we're finding is that, you know, remember us going on about the golden threads?
Yeah.
Right? It's back to these golden threads. And what's happening is, once the children start implementation, it's almost like they go down a rabbit hole at times.
Grows arms and legs. Aye.
It does. And what we're trying to do is, we're trying to say, can we just stick with what we've decided, and then finish your project? And if you've got time left, let's give them some. If they've finished the project, let's say they finished it by February, is there space to give them a couple of weeks to go and put in the other stuff they want to, but don't hand that into us. But just to let them go and do a wee bit more if they want to. I think sometimes though, by that point, they're fed up with the project and they've had enough of it. They never want to see it again. But it's to try and keep those golden threads going all the way through, so they can access those marks.
Yeah, and I think, like, if you look at the arrangements, the project is 40 hours.
Yes.
And that's including the whole write-up. So if the more kind of bits we can cut out and streamline it, the better it can be. I've heard a few horror stories of some teachers starting the projects in September, and I'm like, well, it's only meant to be 40 hours here. So that's when you're going to get a bloated bit of work that's handed in, and when it's too bloated, that's when they're going to miss the marks.
Yes.
Yes, and also the more that they have included in it, then they're just, it's like adding to the workload, because then they've got to design the non-essential parts, if you like, under the new template that would be non-essential. So they've got to design it, they've got to implement it, they've got a lot of testing evidence to do for it as well, and of course the evaluation as well after that. So,
and I like that point there that you've just made, Fiona. We know that the pupils don't particularly love doing the design and the testing, right? They want to code. That's why they've picked our subject. They want to code. So if we stick with these functional requirements that we've produced, and then we finish a report and we do have some time left over, then let them go and code. We don't ask them to do any more. We don't ask them to do
yeah, exactly. No more of the write-up. It needs to be done. Yeah.
Go and do another wee bit and show me what you can do. Show off.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So is there a minimum CSS beyond a media query? The only CSS requirement advanced hire is a media query, and a minimum of one media query is mandatory. And of course, that must be stated clearly as an advanced hire concept in the functional requirements. So as long as it's in there, that's absolutely fine, and it doesn't matter the effect the media query has, other than making it, adjusting the size to go into your tablet or going onto your phone.
Yeah, I don't want to, because I mean, like that could be as easy as changing a background colour, like I've said, but I don't want to tell my pupils that's okay, and then they get marked down for not.
And then they get penalised exactly for it.
But then,
like the navigation and so on not being changed.
So I don't know how consistent that would be across marking, in the sense that someone going to look at that and be like, oh, they've only changed the background colour. That's like Nat 4 level stuff.
These answers that I'm reading out to you, Sean, just to give you a wee bit of maturity, they've came from Morag.
Right. Okay.
Right. Because Brendan took them from Mighty, posted them in the team for us, and Morag went in, and because we still don't know all the answers yet, because obviously we're doing this for the first time as well.
Yeah.
So any questions that you guys are submitting to us, and you'll see there's another slide for that. It says on it, if we can answer it, we will. If not, we promise we'll get you the answers. We'll go to Gordon with Morag.
Absolutely. So the answer to that would be yes, it would be sufficient just to have a different background colour. Now, on the media query, I think we still have the option of either the screen or the print.
We do, yes.
Print is less frequently done, but I have marked some projects where they've talked about the different print and the different orientation for the paper.
I've never marked one like that.
I have had several where the report or the printout was obviously, and there's a functional requirement. It was something, let's say it was a sort of log, that type of thing, a kind of training log sort of thing, where they were getting a printout of what they'd done or what had been completed. And the media query was obviously on the paper orientation, and that was
Okay.
nice, nicely done. Yeah.
Right, okay. So next question is about the input validations. So before they had to they had to validate every single
Input. Yep.
input, and you know, sometimes that was a wee bit, but the change is that it's still expected that all inputs are validated, but we want 2 additional functional requirements referring specifically to the input validation of the keyboard input. And I think that
We have had discussions about keyboard input, haven't we?
we
Mhm.
have,
In terms of
I think that's,
questions as to, is it absolutely necessary that the project has to include keyboard input?
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, pretty sure we had this chat the other day. Let's say, for
Yes.
example, we have a web interface and a database backend. Most people are saying, right, do we validate it on the website? Do we validate it on the database side? And I think, Debbie, and Fiona, you can maybe correct me here, but I think you need to validate it on both. Is that correct?
Well, you should definitely have front end on the front end validation, and also let's say we've got a forum on your web page, which it would be. Is it necessary to have keyboard input to that? And the answer is yes, it is. And I think the result at times we've discussed back and forward. Could it just all be done with radio buttons or drop downs? But no, we want to see keyboard input on that, which must be validated. In fact, all of the input there, but we do have to have a keyboard input on it. And of course, in our data dictionary, we would also expect to see validation in there as well, wouldn't we?
So the things need to be validated client side and server side then?
Yeah.
That seems a bit nuts, does it not? If we're saying for like database, for example, like you would pull the data and then put it into software and sort it in software just for the sake of showing your skills. Like why treat a web project like it's a proper website trying to prevent like SQL injection or something? That seems it seems a wee bit overkill to like, you know, like I think validation's a wee bit unclear in the document as to what that pertains.
Well, good point made. And we can certainly feed that back.
Yeah. It's like if I say they're searching for a movie in a movie's database, so they type in the title of a movie. I put a length check or presence check or something on the front end. What am I doing in the server side?
I think it's more about if your insert statements. So when you're inserting data into the database, you maybe need to validate them. So you're not really validating your searches on the server side. You're validating your inserts on the server side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't need to do an insert, do I? That's what I just have to let me find it.
You have to send a query and bring one back again, don't you?
You have to receive a query input, execute it and format it. So yeah, that could be a search, you know? Like, how, like, I can't...
So if you would do it, like, so...
Yeah, if you're letting them search for any string of text, right, and again, you movie title, then what could I possibly, beyond, like, looking for, like, things like SQL injection, like, you're running through it to make sure no commands have been... But that's, like, that's great, like, that's kind of a bit beyond what we're teaching here. Yeah, I don't think... I don't think the idea of validating client side and server side seems clear. Like, if you were doing an insert statement, that makes more sense. Like, you check it's there, and then if you're not doing an insert statement, then what does that mean? You know, because
I think the intention was to come back to the principle of all input must be validated.
The project doesn't say that anymore, but the project document doesn't say that anymore. I know it's in the course report, it says there's an expectation, but the project did used to say it, but now it doesn't.
Okay, that's maybe made it a bit unclear now.
Yeah.
Right, hold on. It says, right, so it is expected that all inputs are validated. Two additional functional requirements must refer specifically to the input validation of keyboard input. What candidates specify in those mandatory functional requirements is entirely up to them. And as
Where's the course report, Debbie?
what's that?
Where's that? You're reading that?
I'm
From-
reading this. I'm just reading this from Morag when I gave it the questions, right? Which it'll be somewhere and I'll find it.
Yeah.
Just because it came in quick, we wanted it for tonight.
Yeah. No, I know. I just posted there, but it was. 'Cause I was looking at it in class and I was talking to the kids. I was like, "You'll need to validate everything, so you need to think about it." And then when I looked for it, I was like, "Oh, it's not there anymore." And I thought I was making it up. Then I found it in the course report, and I was like, "I think it's missing. I think they forgot to put it in when they've updated the document."
Yeah, I think potentially, possibly, but I think maybe what we need to think about is the data from the database can be coming from different sources. Now, I know that our children are just inputting them, but in reality, they could be coming from a CSV file and could be getting uploaded. So really, your data in a database should always be validated. Maybe that's the approach that we should take there. And we can't assume that the data has been set up properly. So maybe that's the line we're going down. Web validation allows you to handle error messages. I'm just saying things off the top of my head here, Sean, as you can tell.
It's just when you read the new project spec, the course assessment document, like it's not clear, you know.
100% clear. Okay.
Right.
So like I can try and read in between the lines and say, "Oh, this is what I think they're looking for." But without putting myself through marking again, like you know.
Oh, come on, you really want to?
It's like 0% chance I'm doing that.
You're the fabulous team leader as well. I'll take that back to Morag, and if we'll find it in the document if it's there, and we'll post it into the Mighty. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
An answer.
Yeah. So it's basically the inputs need to be validated, and then what does that validation look like? And they need to be different, you know, like.
I mean, I know that if you do a web form, it's really, really easy. You can just put required down on them all.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not a marketer, but I would say to my kids, can you add a few extra in there, please? You know, just from that point of view, can you put a length check in there? What else could you do on that?
Yeah. But my worry is if you're asking me to do server side, you only have an extra 8 functions. How many? You get like an extra 8 functional requirements, or 6 or something like that. 6. You get 6 extra functional requirements or something. If you're asking them to validate things server side, they don't really have a lot to do. You know, like they're going to fill up that space really quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
maybe Sean, we're going back to our sprints, and we're not having as much data entry.
I'm only entering 2 things.
You know,
Sorry, there you go.
You know, like, I was just thinking about, like, if you've got loads like forms and different things, maybe we'd adjust that a wee bit as part of that whole the sprint, so that we are validating the stuff, but maybe we don't have quite as much data to validate. I think that's something maybe for us to think about.
Certainly, sorry, it's Maggie here. Certainly, in the examples it gives you, it talks about validating the input.
Yes.
And STD, the ones that I'm looking at here. So it would be good to clear that up, but I think I'll stick with making them validated just in case.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's just validate everything.
But that might then lead to you having too many functional requirements.
Yeah.
We only need to. So we're only putting 2 in, but we're validating the other ones. Would you then need to design and stuff again? Yeah, let's just get some clarification in this.
Yeah, I think it's a good.
And if we can get that out through the Mighty Network, that'll get to everybody.
Brilliant.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
If you think anything else around it, Sean, because I had just assumed that all inputs would need to be validated. I hadn't because that's what it's always been.
Yeah.
So if you think anything else about it, then if you could let us know, that would be great.
Yeah. So can I ask one last thing? That see on the web project, it's got the part where it's like integrating with a database with at least one table. The solution should, and the first one's receive a query input, and you're saying that should be one of the inputs that's validated, but it doesn't say a text input there. So like I could do my text input somewhere else in my project. Like that bullet point doesn't say a text input. So like I could do a query through whatever radio buttons or something if I wanted, you know. So yeah, just when you were like that one's one of the text inputs, but it doesn't say that in the project.
This was the discussion we had, wasn't it, Fiona? Remember,
Yes.
I left the room.
Yes, it was. We did discuss this quite well, yeah, reasonably extensively. And because there was a question as to whether or not this was being, if it wasn't text input, if it wasn't done as text input, was the unnecessary requirement for validation. Would that be fair to say that, Debbie? And I think the conclusion was that whatever was being input there would need to be a keyboard input, even if
text. Like if it doesn't say keyboard input.
But yes, it doesn't say keyboard input in the wording. Yeah.
You know, like how can candidates will potentially lose a mark there or two, just because they think, oh, query input, I can get that input anyway.
Anyway, yeah.
Then if SQL are expecting some sort of keyboard enter, then you know they're gonna lose that. I'll just go and make sure my kids do it if they choose a web project. But
it does say in the guidance for producing your project plan, one of your lists of tasks is implementation of input validation. So that's still in there.
Yeah.
Whether it's got to be for everything or not, we need just clarification, I think.
Okay.
And we'll get that. We'll absolutely get that. Does the validation need to be both client and server side? No, they don't, is the answer. It can be either. So
one or the other. Okay.
And it's up to the candidate to decide where they're doing that validation, but as long as it's been done.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
No bother. That's again that, you know, and we're going to offer drop-ins like that. Drop-ins quite regular, Sean, to come in with things like this. And again, if we can't get the answer, we'll get it for you from somewhere.
Absolutely.
Do the validations need to be different? At advanced hire, I would suggest so that they should be doing more than one type of validation. They are advanced higher level. They did validations much further down the school.
So just on that point then, so if they can do their validation client side and they validate two text inputs, like what, like apart from presence and like range that they get taught, I know they can go and learn something else, right? Because that's also not part of the project, but like apart from like presence and a length check, like what could we realistically be doing there?
You could be making sure there's a uppercase letter in it, something like that.
Yeah,
you know.
I know a more extreme version. I was talking to some computing teachers last week. Obviously, when we're looking at the project and you're looking for the 4 extra marks, you know, because you're going above and beyond the scope of the course. And I have seen pupils using JavaScript to get today's date and making sure that they can't pick a date before that. Or they can only pick a date within a certain range. Obviously, that's the type of validation if you're doing date as well. But that is above and beyond looking for those 4 extra marks as well.
That's all fine. It's just it feels like you're creating a validation to fit the project rather than just validating your inputs.
Yeah.
Like I feel like validating inputs is part of the project, obviously, but like I feel like the other parts of what it does are like the main goal. So like cleaning up like, oh, it needs a capital letter, which is like fine, you know, you could do that client side with JavaScript or whatever. But like it seems,
I think the key thing is that like you know, it has always been that all inputs need to be validated, and where it's done, and that will take up more of their additional functional requirements. So maybe we need to work on cutting down some of their input. And again, going back to that, it's a sprint, and then we want it to be manageable. So we want to, you know, just rein it in a bit.
Yeah, you think, say I've got 2 text inputs, and I'm going to get, I know it's not as clean cut as this, right? But I'm going to get a mark for writing length check, and then I'm getting a mark for writing a JavaScript function that checks that there's a capital letter. Like, that does not seem comparable in my head.
No, but they don't need to do that. Do you know what I mean? They don't need to do that one. There's other ones they could be doing. You know, so that's just David going, and this would get them above and beyond as well. You know,
that's 4 marks.
Yeah, no, I get that. It just, I get why the SQA don't release examples, but I get with a software project, validation is pretty straightforward. You know, like they're gonna have to write some code to do that. But when you're dealing with web, I think it's hard to be clear what are you looking for there.
Okay.
You know, because if you're having to write like a sort of block of code for each validation, that might be more than one functional requirement depending on what's going on there in the background.
Yep,
I think
that's when you watch. Is it taking up too many of the functional requirements?
Yeah, I mean, most obviously my date example is a JavaScript example, but for HTML5 you can do max, you can do min, you can do length, you can do required, and that's all built into the language. So it's not that you're needing to write blocks of code for that. Yeah,
I just don't want to tell my kids to write like max and min, and then they submit it, and it's like that's crap. That's not advanced hire. You know, that's what my worry is. It's just not clear what validation means for a web project. If that's server side, client side, and what the examples should be, because I don't think they learn any more new HTML like stuff like that with HTML form commands, apart from like the action and method. So they don't learn anything new. Advanced hire said you're assessing them on higher stuff there. Like you know what I mean? Like we never really do that, do we? We don't give them marks for stuff at a previous level. So like, how can we say, it's okay to do it client side, but it needs to be something they've not been taught? You know, it's like a weird situation. I'll be fine, right? I'm just trying to say that it's not super clear. I think in terms of like what would be suitable in terms of validation.
Okay, yeah, I hear your point there.
Yeah, I get it is hard, and I guess it all just depends on the context of the project. So we can't sit here and talk about every possible validation. We just need to see it in the context of the project.
No, thank you.
Yeah, with us talking about the context of the project, should we go back and? That's one of the things we kind of wanted to talk about today. Is we definitely think some pupils, and maybe we're talking to the wrong people here, but there's a lot of people who do advanced higher computing who are either put up the back of a room or they're doing it remotely, and these people are coming up with projects and nobody's really dialing it in, nobody's sitting with them, nobody's talking about it. And again, I think a lot of people want examples is because they actually want to know what makes a good project, and this is kind of what we want to talk about just now. So we kind of just want you to write down some of the projects that your pupils are thinking about. So if you look at the Miro board here, Debbie, my glamorous assistant there, has taken a post-it pad, and Debbie and Fiona, you can do the same. They're going to write some projects down that they're seeing in their classes. You know, what some of the kids are thinking about. And that's then going to give us a chance to read them all. And we just want to be able to discuss them as a group and say, right, well, does that meet the criteria? Is that too big? Is this too small? Do you know, because if they don't get it right at this beginning stage, they're going to set themselves up to fall. Now, I know not everybody's on the Miro. So if you happen to come in late, I believe the Miro link is in the chat. So you can click on the chat and you can join the Miro board if you want to contribute to this. If Miro hasn't worked out well for you, feel free to just go into the Google Meet chat and you can write a few examples of projects that you have heard the kids talking about over the last few months, if they have been talking about it at all. Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to type them in. I'm going to go and do one as well. Okay. Well, we do that. Somebody could sing us a song if anybody would like to do that. That'd be great.
Did do? No, okay, no, okay.
No, we've heard you singing before. Thank you. Mine's worse though.
How mean. I've got somebody wanting to do Wordle as well, and I was like, that's actually quite a good one.
Yeah,
My
Bill
girls
did it last year, and she did well in it.
Right.
And if you're doing Python, you're doing it with Python, there's a wee module called Colorama, and it just gives your text-based thing, gives letters different colours and backgrounds, so it makes it look quite like Wordle, you know, because Python can be quite limited in its interface.
We've got loads here. This is great. Any on Google Chat? I'm just going to have a wee check up here. I could even copy them over. If you put them on the Google Chat, I can just copy and paste it over.
I'm going to write this one in, and nobody's going to know what the game is, but it's fantastic.
And we recommend you put some down that you're worried about. We recommend you put down some down. I'm not too sure if that is going to meet the criteria, because it's helpful just to have other teachers kind of talk over it and see if it's going to fit. SSD. It's also just interesting to see how many people go for software, how many people go for web and databases. Yeah, I've seen that. That's oh, aye, right. Aye, I recognise that one definitely. Let me put that in. That was my best one last year. I don't know if they'll all fit on here anymore. I might make this one a bit smaller. There we go. Fantasy Football League. All right.
I'm only putting in what the children of
Yeah. So
having that discussion. Is it good or is it not?
Yeah. So I mean, there are some I'm reading here that seem a little big. Hotel booking system. I'm assuming, I don't know if I put that down, I would assume that's going to be your databases in your web. What else have we got here? Okay.
Does anybody do big database and minor software, or do most people do database major, web minor?
No, well, I've had a couple three last year with database major and software, and
Wow.
basically Python was a kind of front end, and it was that golf ball one that I've put up. So it's a guy that was interested in golfs, and his golf club sold golf balls. So his database tables were basically the kind of make the golf balls, the order, the customer in the order line, if you like. And then he had a kind of front end on that were just the Python questions that sent queries to the database. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
It worked well. There was also one that did, it was music playlists that they did. So they just did a database of songs and things like that. So
yeah, I had the exact same one. So I've got a playlist editor there. At the time when the people wrote it, he wanted to have a media player and all that in it. And I just had to say, strip all that out. You just don't need any of this. And all they had to do is they had a table of artists and music, and you just had to put them in order and then save the playlist. Done.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Right, guys, I'm going to have to go because we've got a BG meeting at 5:15. So I'll get a cup of tea, but that was brilliant. Thanks very much.
No bother. Tell everybody to say hi, Maggie.
Thanks, Maggie.
Take care. Bye now. Bye.
Bye-bye.
PC building.
Yeah.
PC building with the database to store components.
Yeah, sounds. I mean, the car one is completely out of control.
But where's the car one? Can you?
This one down at the bottom here, my guys. He's got he wants a car website with a database. He's going to record car details for the users. They can buy upgrade kits. They can, it's not complete, sorry, compete in drag races. Don't know how he's going to do that on the website, but anyway. The points will award free upgrades that you can be awarded on the website, depending on your results in the drag race. And yeah, there were several other features going in.
I mean, you just look at that. Fiona, the first sentence, the car website with a database, record car details. I'm like,
it would be quite sufficient, wouldn't it, on its own?
On you go. That's it. Forget the rest.
Yep, exactly. Never mind drag race competitions and all of this other stuff.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
I had a pupil 2 years ago who was really into guitars. I think he got an A or a B, and his project was a guitar logger. So you literally type in the guitar, and it stores the manufacturer, the model, you know, the year you bought it, and you had to split up into 4 tables, and that was it. You know, so this idea of there must be some form of gamification of it all.
Oh yes, this
not really needed.
Talking to him, I said, "How are you going to do this all?" I don't know yet, and I was like, "Whoa, we got to pare all this back here." And it is, as we've said already, this is our first sprint here. We'll just go for the basic website with your database in behind, and let's see if we can get that done really well.
Yeah. Debbie, am I right in saying the Rubik's Cube one was yours?
Yeah. So she wants to do a Rubik's Cube, and I so with the discussion of what would that look like, because I think if she can start to visualize in a text-based language what that will look like, she'll then start to see what the issues could be, and how that would be, and also the discussion about how that would be stored. Now, what I did manage to do, right, so if we're going to do a sprint and we're going to bring things in a little bit, the discussion was, instead of it being a 3x3, what would it look like if it was a 2x2? And then how would things move, and what would that entail? And I've asked her to go away and have a real think about, you know, you don't want to turn around and say no.
Yeah.
You don't want to turn around and say, you're off your, no, just no. So I've asked her to go away and have a good think about it, and come back with what her plan is for that first sprint. What is the plan for just reining that project in, because that's one that could easily grow arms and legs.
Yes.
And the manipulation of the array, or of the, you know, how would that all be stored as well?
I was going to ask that, like, what data structure are they using to store the information of each? They're going to have 6 different 2D arrays, and then they'll interact with each other. I mean, it sounds. I think a lot of people think the more complex the problem is, the more marks they're going to get.
Yes.
That's not how it works.
No, there is no
get them out of that mind frame.
So that's, I've asked her to go away, and I've given her some giving her some questions, not pointing in a direction, and not giving her, but giving her questions to go and think about. So that
you're more subtle than me, Debbie, I think.
So that hopefully she's going to come to the conclusion. There's somebody in here doing a quiz going to you know, I can't get more marks than them. So that's the that's what you want to happen there.
Yeah. I've put down the book rental systems, the DB and web. So any form of library, and that's been a big hit for mine. So what I say to the kids is, like, there's an example of what it can do, but then they get to customize it on something that they're interested in. So I've had somebody kind of doing like an equipment rental service, so you can go and get like climbing equipment. And, you know, I've got people having animal vet appointments and things like that. And they are very info system style, but from my perspective, and I'm not a marker, just from a teacher point of view, I just think the design of a database really is an ER diagram in a data dictionary. That's it. Now, as soon as you start going into database, so as soon as you start going into web, you know, you've kind of got your templates and your interfaces and your layouts, and you go into your software, and you've got all your kind of pseudocode and things like that. And from my perspective, and this is just and I tell the people, is that if I was doing it, this is what I would do. But as well as that, I've got kids that are great at software and they still want to do software, and that's fine. But from my perspective, I just see the database and web angle was the most accessible one, most straightforward one. And that is my personal opinion, and it's not, but yeah.
Did you find that they ever struggle to come up with their ER, the relationship between their tables for the major database, because we don't really talk about that ever, do we, as to how...
So the 4-table issue, I always think that there's always a way to grow it. So an obvious example to grow a database would just to put on users, do you know? So you've got a user, so it's not just a single user database. You can make it a multi-user database for reasons. You can do that. It depends on the scenario, but we would normally just sit down and have a wee chat. And if most of them get their 4 tables quite quickly, it's actually the opposite problem. Sometimes is they're actually sitting with 6, 7, and I'm like, no, we need to cut that right back.
Yep.
So, but no, most of the time they get their 4 tables.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Most of them are I'm reading them. I've put in the Fantasy Football League. I had to put that one in deliberately because that's one that can have 10, 13, 14 tables.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, that would grow arms and legs, I can imagine. That would be pretty big.
That's one that should really be avoided, and you'll get, you know, groups of people who will like, oh, I'd like to do, and I noticed that someone's put down there a football fixture list and league update. That's software major, database minor, and you can see that one would work. But actually doing a database fantasy football league, that one there is that's a void, because it
massive.
And you end up I had pupils do it years ago, and it was when it was information systems advanced, and the join was across, to get the league updated, the join was across something like 6 tables. So that's one I think that people think is quite easy, but it's not an easy one. It's actually quite a tricky one.
Yeah, quite complex.
Yeah, I'm not played Uno too much. I don't really know too much about Uno, but I'm assuming the only issue I've got with Uno there is that you're also going to have to program all the rules of the game. Now, I think we had this conversation where somebody wanted to program chess, and they're like, all right, yeah, chess has got a 2D array, so you can see the board, but all the rules of chess aren't going to get you any extra marks in this assignment, because those rules of chess don't show off the advanced higher concepts. So you're making that overly complicated. Now, when I'm looking at the screen here, I'm looking at Uno and I'm looking at Connect 4. I can imagine would be a little bit easier to do the rules and to get that working. But Uno, I would imagine you'd have a lot of rules to program in there. You're not going to get any extra marks for that, are you?
No, you're not. But again, we need to look at sprints. So that I wrote down there, take 2, not 4. So if you know, breaking, not trying to do every single one of the rules, maybe only picking for the first sprint 2 or 3.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yes.
And that's absolutely fine. Before the marker said, the marker instruction said complete and blah, and I can't remember what the exact wording was, project, it's still complete as long as they're meeting their functional requirements. It's not complete as in they've written a fully functioning Uno game.
Yeah, and I think some of the people struggle with that. I think they want this polished thing to hand in, but actually that's not what we're after here. We're just wanting you to exemplify your learning in this class.
Yes, they don't realise until they get immersed in it just what a task they have set themselves, do they?
No. What are good ones? I'm just looking, Carol, what are some good ones that you've done, or your guys have done?
I'm just going to see, some of them want a multi-choice style website app that uses a database. So there's 5 multiple choice questions. That's a kind of quizzy thing. Another one was software main and database sub, a playing card game. But just as you're talking, I think that one could grow arms and legs as well.
I mean, if they do higher or lower, and they need to guess if the next card's higher or lower, done. But anything that's got fancy rules.
And
a gardening website one as well, with the database back end, and that I don't know where he's going to go with that one, because that one also can grow arms and legs. But I can see where he was going with that, because he said I could get a customer that's maybe had their grass cut like 5 times to get a free grass cut, and they can update that database ever.
Single table.
Yeah.
But none of them are doing a database as a main.
Right.
And that's purely because coming from higher, we didn't do databases. It was all web software. So that's where we're coming from.
Yeah, that totally makes a difference. Absolutely.
Yep. Sean, have you got any good ones that have been successful in the past? I'm looking for more ideas here, because I feel my guys do the same ones every year.
Well, I think the new form kind of changes the types of projects you can do. So before it was very, very vague, obviously leading to the disasters like that you're trying to mark, like 1,000-page projects. I think if you look at any of these sticky note things here, like just break it down to the end user section, right? Are more than 6 things that could be done. Like the Rubik's Cube, you would have to choose a side, right? Choosing a side would involve turning the cube. There's 2 things the end user has to do. They would then have to say how they want to turn it. And then it has to then connect to something like a database. It's easily going to get over 6 things that a user can do. So I think that's the easiest way to sort of take a first stab at it. Like, just if you run through it in your head, because people struggle, like you were saying, with the back end. They've no idea how big that's going to get, all this code they're going to have to write, but they understand their idea. So if you just ask them to write down step by step how would this work, and if they get past step 6, then the project's not suitable. So even like games like, say, like Minesweeper there, like if a pupil's like, oh, I'm gonna have a start screen, and they're thinking, well, that's something the end user's gonna have to do there. They're gonna have to like choose an option to start the game. Like that would have to go probably to try and fit the rest of the game in. So that's the way I'm teaching web just now, hence all my web questions.
Yeah, I mean, just when we're looking at Minesweeper, I had a pupil who arrived in advanced hire with a Minesweeper project all done. And in his head, he's like, well, I'm just going to backward engineer this to fit the advanced hire. And there was no telling him otherwise. And I was like, right, okay. He didn't get the grade he wanted. He didn't get it. And I don't know if that was... I don't know what I could have done about that, but now I see it, Minesweeper, and I panic, like, because I know that he had a bad experience with that. And I've just got my appeals back today, and he never got it, and he was a smart boy. And I think he was almost too smart. It's almost, it's that whole, the dog needs to wag the tail. You need to come in, and it's the project you're tackling. You're not trying to bend the project around your pet thing that you've got. You know, it's about showcasing the skill set that you should be learning. But yeah, for the markers, I mean, I'd imagine Minesweeper is one you see a lot, but does it come in different qualities when you get Minesweeper? Like, I'm always trying to ask, what happened to my guy last year? Like, why did he not get it?
Minesweeper is a big one. It's a big project. I've had a couple do Minesweeper. I wouldn't encourage that now. I would
okay.
Steer away. The issue is when pupils reverse engineer, you know that they're going to take every single line of code and they're going to turn every single line of code into pseudocode. And most of the times they don't know what it means, so they just write it out as it is, and then it's not design, it's code, or into the reference language.
The design this year was still poorly done across the board, actually. It was quite disappointing. I'm not talking about your project, David, but just in general terms, it was poorly done, which I think was a surprise to us, because we thought with this, with the template we used last school year, that might help focus on the design, but I don't think it did.
At all. And but also ask one I've heard a lot, and none of my kids have done it, but I've heard of this, a Sudoku puzzle solver. Do you get that a lot? Because that obviously
No.
fits the two. No?
I've
Yeah,
had people,
Debbie's nodding.
I've had pupils do that and been really successful.
Okay, because the rules aren't hard to program if you think about that. That's not. It's just a big if statement, to be fair.
Yeah.
And you've got the 2D array structure. That's all good to go.
Yeah.
So like, if I had any that had Minesweeper, I'd be going, what about Sudoku instead?
Yeah.
Okay.
The ones in mine that have done it, they've actually had some of them in the past, not all of them, but some of them in the past, what they've had is they've brought in the solution as a file, and they've also had the one with the bits missing as a file, so that they can easily do the comparison. So it's not been like trying to work it out or anything. So yeah, that's how they've done it. And yeah, Minesweeper, I feel, has been not Minesweeper, sorry, Sudoku's actually been a successful one.
Okay, that's good to know, because I think a lot of kids, they want to do some form of games, and now the requirements have really been shrunk down. What kind of game can you do with that many requirements? There's not many you can do. So yeah, I think
One of my
Sudoku would
guys
fit the
did
mold.
Who Am I? This is a couple of years ago, so it's under the old format, but that was a nice project. And again, you can cut it down and simplify it to only a few things that you're guessing.
Right.
And I'm also going to ask this from you guys, a marker's point of view. I take it you see lots of, and it's a really popular one, it fits the mold, the quiz on a software with a database scoreboard. You see that all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, there's lots of database scoreboards that are sorted. Yeah.
It's not romantic. It's not cool. Do you know? You're not going to show it off to your pals in the class.
It ticks every
Ticks
box.
all the boxes. Aye.
And another really straightforward one. And when I say it, you're going to go, oh, aye, a lottery program.
Aye.
Yep.
A lottery program, because your sort is right there. You everything. It just. Yep.
Brilliant. I never thought of that.
Yeah. Can I ask something? So when I was marking last year, the last term, whatever, like I remember Morag saying, so the part about your new skills you need to learn. So there's 4 marks for new skills, and Morag said it has to tie to your functional requirements.
Yeah.
You know, so like when pupils are choosing projects, they're having to choose something like they have to know that this project involves something they can't do yet and they've not been taught. So that's quite a hard thing to do. You know, obviously they can always tack something on. And the template, the new template also says like when implementing your functional requirements, you may need to use some new code that extends the content of the advanced higher course.
Yeah.
It says if this is the case, and then it asks you to do the stuff. It just says may and if in that doc, so that's made a wee bit misleading. And it's also halfway through, like, or it's after you've built it, you know. So if you weren't looking at the project as a whole, when you're trying to choose one,
David,
total nightmare.
Yeah, David gave me a good idea, and his idea is look at his face. His suggestion was send them to W3 schools beforehand.
Oh, aye.
Send them away to look at stuff in W3 schools, and when they've got their game, and then let them think, right, okay, is there any way I could bring something in? And Sean, you'll have seen some pupils will write down, I'm not going for these 4 marks.
Yeah.
I make sure that I'm not going to try and access them, because I'm going to make sure that I can access marks by making sure that my golden threads are all the way through, and that's something to do. So I've actually been saying to my guys, if you're doing software, maybe you need to go and have a wee look at W3 schools. If you're doing databases,
W3 schools.
W3 schools.
Aye. So like,
remember, the above and beyond does not have to be on your major. So that above and beyond can be in the minor, which means it can be in the database end.
So even like a term of insert ignore. Now that ignore command is not in the advanced higher course. So what insert ignore does, it makes sure if that data has already been entered, don't enter it again, ignore it. Now, that's standard SQL stuff outside the advanced higher course. If you go into W3 Skills, that's listed there, as well as 5 other easy to use SQL functions. And if the kids use any of those functions from W3 Skills, there you go.
Yep.
But I
And
do get your point that
Yeah.
they need to know of that in order to include it in the requirements. But they can go back and they can add that. That is iterative.
Yeah, I do remember there was talk of like candidates using CSS for their additional skills, and that sometimes isn't enough because they were saying, it doesn't tie to your functional requirements. Like if you learned, like I don't know, whatever it was, moving things about or something like. So that's maybe something to think about as well. Like what is actually a functional requirement versus maybe just a bit of display things on the page.
those additional 4 marks are
as a functional as opposed to this has made it nicer to look at type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would that's what I would do, Sean, as I would point them to W3 Schools when they've got an idea of what they want and let them see what's out there and see if there's anything that they can then pull in.
My kids will be fair. I've got a class of 10 this year, and they're all like pulling great ideas. We get all right numbers. So, but like anyway, like
Brilliant.
they've all good ideas. They're not doing that sort of thing. But I just remember I don't know when I was marking. I just remember it was getting talked about. It's like, that's if it doesn't tie to your functional requirements, then that wouldn't be counted as a research and development
extra.
Yeah, so we need to make sure.
Have you got to get 4 above and beyond, or just 1 to get the marks?
No, just one, but you get the 4 marks.
Right. Okay.
Is that right, Debbie?
I think so. There's another.
Well, no, 2 really, because 2 well documented and researched.
That's
Okay.
right.
Get your 4 marks.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
And where a lot of the candidates fall down is they don't do the documentation, the write-up of it particularly well and give us the reference, and don't actually tie it into the functional requirement and either the gameplay or the requirement from the project. So make sure they don't miss out on actually not just listing, I am going to do this, or I'm using this particular thing, but almost like the little explanation of why they need that and how it ties in.
Okay.
Is this Mr. Jones posted a question? Luke, is that you? I think that might be Luke Jones. If it is, hello. What did he say there? 2 seconds. Hey, how would something like Tinker GUIs apply to the above and beyond functional requirement? There are a few candidates doing major software this year, and they want to include Tinker GUI.
Nope.
Doesn't include. It's a library. It's a library, isn't it? So you're just applying a library. Is that so? You're not going to get the marks for that.
It's the same as Pygame. It doesn't count.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I disagree with that, but that's obviously the way it was marked. Like, I think learning a new library is no different from learning a new command for a database. So I think it's nonsense, but that's obviously what the marking's happening. So don't do it.
Yep. There's I'm on both sides with it, Sean. If I'm honest with you, I understand the reasoning behind it, but I feel sorry for kids who go and learn their Pygame and then they're not being able to access the marks. I kind of understand the reason why the decision was made, but I still, it's a hard one, that one. So
I guess because some libraries are easier to use than others. So if we then generally said, right, well, we are going to accept libraries, there's some libraries that are ridiculously easy that there's almost no learning in that. So it's hard to say that libraries would be allowed when they are so different. Yeah. But I do get your point.
I really wasn't happy when I was marking like that. I was staring, getting line with guidance. But like Tinker, for example, if you've never used it, you need to say how big you want the screen and where you want the buttons and what the buttons do and stuff. It's like that's learning a new skill. Like how could you argue it's not?
that's the same. Like I've had pupils in Java, and they've added in the event driven stuff, so they can have buttons, so they can have just like different like Minesweeper. One boy did the buttons with Minesweeper, and he put that in, and it uses event listener and all that, but he doesn't get it because
has code.
Made that it's not to be UI.
Yeah. Hey, I just remembered another thing I do for project ideas. Like my kids can also come up with all sorts of mental stuff as well. I'm going to build this game. I'm going to make this mega project, and I try and tell them to think about what they did for their assignments at National 5 and higher. See these boring type projects. That's what they're looking for. They're not looking for something fancy. Go back and look at what you did at higher. You made whatever. You made a program about mushrooms or whatever it is, or like, you know, go make that. Don't make your fun idea. I know that's
yeah. It's
Or come up at lunch and make your fun ideas, but when you're doing advanced higher, when you rein it in.
So you think it's look what good ideas do your kids have? Because that's the purpose of this, is to get other. I've got 18 pupils plus another 18 in the virtual campus. I need more ideas. Also need extra. Anybody want to do some, just QAing of them? That would be great.
Like, seems you're doing like a Python, presumably, if you're writing to category. Like the kids could do like another algorithm. So like a shuffle algorithm is on par at advanced higher level. So if you go and research like a shuffle algorithm, they can implement that, and that'd be like a skill, like for the deck of cards or something, for example. Just try and keep them away from that front end, I think, would be the safest option.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you've had the experience, absolutely, because as well, what we I get why they've made that decision, is that the pupils end up spending so much just on the UI that they don't access marks in other areas. And that's, that is a reason for them saying not to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go on.
Is that
right? We're happy then on our project ideas.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this for another 2 nights, but I think we've done it justice this evening. So yeah.
A screenshot of that. Thank you so much, people.
Yeah, I mean, to be totally honest, so we are currently planning as the Advanced Higher Group what we want to cover. Now, nobody knows what we should be covering more than you. To be honest, like, you know what you need supported with, and we can go off and we could look into all that. So if there's anything that you're worried about, anything that you're not sure you're doing correct, anything you need help with, you just want to see an alternative way of doing things, whatever, please let us know. I come up with a horrible idea of looking at UML next, because I don't believe UML is done well across the country. So we thought it might be a good idea to try and standardise UML, and I'm dreading it, but I think it's needed. Debbie, Fiona, do you agree?
Absolutely.
So yeah, this is our feedback. If you're on the Miro, have a look at the feedback form. What did we do well? What was good? What was useful for you in this session? This is the most, I don't know if I should use the word informal. We're still prepared, but it was much more interactive. We wanted people to contribute more. We wanted it to be more of a conversation rather than a lecture, and it's been great. And I've actually really enjoyed it. It's been great hearing from everybody. So please just let us know. And this bit's really important. I know you've got all your important bits back, but STACS really needs to get all the evaluations done and make sure that that we're meeting the needs of everybody who's coming along to these sessions. So please just have a wee look. If you are on the Miro, write one thing that you thought was really good. What was awful? Please don't say me if it was awful. Anything we can improve, anything that we can add. If you can't get onto the Miro, please post that. Just post that in the chat.
And as David said, we're looking at UML, but if there's other things
yes,
here, then let us know.
one of the other things that we're thinking about doing is maybe every 6 weeks, just one, two of us being here, opening up the meet and saying if you've got any questions about the projects.
Yeah, about progress or
whatever
issues.
Is that something that you would want? Do you think that there's a need for that?
Definitely. Me, for being, this is the first time I've ever taught advanced time, so I'm looking for any sort of information and anything that I can get. So
Good.
I'm always emailing David.
That's fine.
Carol, I'm happy to add you to my team. You can take out of it whatever you want, and if you find any mistakes, you can add me to it.
I used to work at St Margaret's, Debbie. I remember you from West Lothian.
No.
Leslie Russell.
It's Fiona works at Whitburn.
Yeah, I was at Whitburn.
Oh,
Well, that's a wee West Lothian reunion.
Yes.
Oh, brilliant. But yeah, no, if you want me to, honestly, I'm being dead serious. Do you want me to add you to the team?
Yeah.
I'm working in my notebook. Things that it is Java, but you're more, there is Python stuff there as well, though, because it's a Python.
Right.
Honestly, you're more than welcome to take anything you want, and I've got all my solutions in Python as well. So
excellent. Thank you so much, saving my skin.
Yeah. STACS have also asked us just to ask the people that are here how they found out about the session. So did they find out at a Teams meeting? Did they find out at a area link meeting? Did your PT tell you about it? Or did you find out yourself on the Mighty board? So even if you can post that in the chat or mention that, STACS are wanting to know that information as well, please.
Show examples of EU and FR. Right, okay.
Yeah, I just mean the sense that we're talking about things, and then, like if it was your first time doing this, like you it is so overwhelming, and it's changed the last 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
If you get a hold of somebody's project from 3 years ago, it doesn't fit. Parts of it do, but you don't know what part. It's just so much, and the document's a lot cleaner than it used to be. I think there's still maybe a few wee things that have been missed on it. Understandably, it's an absolute monster.
I've not went through the document as well as I went through the template, Sean, and I don't know about you, but I think when the template was generic last year, it was a bit confusing, whereas now I'm finding them a lot more streamlined and a lot more obvious what goes in where. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah. Sorry, I was looking to see if I was able to share my screen there, because I've got my template up. But I think it's so much better, 100 times over.
Yeah.
I think it's super clean, and then I can't remember how many end user we were allowed last year, but it's also been reduced again to 6.
Yes.
And it's like you're still doing too much. Get down. There are parts of it that I'm not 100% on. I'm trying to figure it out, and there's a wee bit of me asking my kids as well, being like, "What do you think that means?" But it's going to be the guinea pigs while we submit this year, and then we see how we get on with it. But yeah, I just meant show rather than tell. Like, we're talking about what make a good project. Like, throwing up like a couple of end user requirements for a project makes it super clear. You're like, oh, that's okay. There's no more room there. I couldn't do anything bigger than that. We're saying Sudoku's too big or Minesweeper's too big. What does that mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't know what sort of box they're trying to fit it in. Like, what does 6 end user requirements look like? And what does maybe the language that's used there? What sort of language would be appropriate?
Okay.
So, and genuine question, would you want something like that sooner rather than later, Sean?
Well, so the way I don't know if I've managed to share my window for this.
Yeah, I can see it.
I don't know what I'm doing.
It's what?
That's
Well
it.
done.
First day on a computer, right? Right. So this is for a web project, this is me trying to plan out. So I'm finished teaching web, and I'm getting kids just now to think about if they were doing a project, what would it look like? So if it's a website and it's a movie website, do you know what? Would it be easier Sorry, 2 secs. 2 secs. How on earth do you share your Chrome browser? It's going to cause.
Because Teams will be in your browser. So
Yeah, I know. I don't want it to. I don't want it to like do that thing, but it goes in. So, can you see
there
my?
we go.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
I've heard South Lanarkshire have got easy PHP. It makes me a bit jealous, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I don't. It's been there since before I started.
Brilliant.
I'm old now, so I don't know where it came from or what the script is. I'm using I'm in the house just now. So so this website here, I think meets the advanced hire requirements. So I've got a login here for a username. This is purely so it fulfills the session variable requirement. So I type in Sean. It takes me to my website and it says welcome Sean. That's my session variable.
Done. Yeah.
So my question earlier, I said, should you have an about page or anything? That was because I've got this welcome page.
Like a landing page, yeah.
Right? And I'm like, do I need to include that in a requirement? It's like there's nothing there. It seems overkill. And I'm thinking I'll need to take that out. But anyway, if you go into the search page and you search for a movie title, here's my second input, text input. So I search for there, and it's running on a database, obviously, and it'll find all my movies with there. Now I've not done my CSS, and my features that are going to be extra would be you could click on the title and rating to sort it. That'd be a client-side JavaScript thing. I've not written them yet because I just haven't. But I look at that and I think this is pretty much an advanced hire website, and I can click this exit button to go back to my homepage. It meets requirements. I think showing people that, showing teachers that, might not be the worst thing. It's not finished or given. It's not marker approved or anything like that. But I think doing something like that would maybe be beneficial, because then you're like, my kids are doing a whole lot more than that.
Yeah.
And you're like, right, I need to strip it back. And so for that website, if I stop sharing for a second and I try it again. Oh my goodness. Now I just need to find the Word doc. All right, I've got it. So for that website, I've got the end user requirements of enter a username to access the movie website, exit the site to change their username, so it lets them go back on that exit button. It's search for movies by title, and then I've not implemented this one yet. Sort the results by rating, ascending, descending. Now, what Fiona was saying earlier about you need 2 things in your new skills, and then you have to add something else in here that they're doing that results in a extra new skill, which is a wee bit messy for me, but I can figure something out. I look at that and I think, well, that's so much less than what I was doing Advanced Hire 5 years ago. Or even 10 years ago. They used to be mega projects in Pygame and stuff like that. And I've always had all right marks, but this new format, I think showing people, I get why they're against, because everybody goes away and does that. Right? I get it, but at the same time, you can I've color coded mine here, so I know which user requirements are matching with my functional requirements. And
where you learn to do that?
I know. Were you a marker at one point, Sean?
Very briefly. Worst 5 days of my life. So I just that way, it's so hard, because when you're doing your projects in class, you don't want to show, you want to be trying to teach it, and then you're getting feedback, and kids have already done all the work, and you're like, oh my god, it's wrong. So if you're showing things just now, and this isn't I'm not got a finished project. There's only a couple of marks there. It's not. I'm not pulling back the curtain too much.
No, I totally agree with what you do. When I had Advanced Hire last year, we almost did a mini project. So I got my kids to do a coffee ordering system when they built a database up, and they only had 2 tables, teacher and the order, and they had a form to type in all the coffee details. See, once the kids had it running, I was like, cool, do that with 4 tables now, and change. It's no coffee anymore. It's something else, and I think you're doing the right thing. Is a lot of the kids because it's unknown, they just go in big. This idea of more is better, and what you're doing is totally right, to showing them how to stay within, within the guidelines. I think what you're doing is right, and I guess that needs to be done more.
Right, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just reading what you've said.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you teach an advanced higher course?
Thanks, meeting last year. Good.
Thanks again for taking time to share. Oh, absolutely. Get in touch anytime. Look, anytime.
Yeah, of course. By the way, that might not be Luke. I think it's Luke, but it might not be.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry.
No. I know somebody called Mr. Jones. He's a computer teacher, and his name's Luke. But that might not be him, so we'll find out.
It is Luke.
Oh, it is. Hi, Luke.
Sean, Brendan is obviously in the room, and he just made a really valid point. That like maybe we should be able to have that landing page without it being a functional requirement. I don't know how Morag would.
I think if it got to marking, I think if it got flagged up, I think the markers probably got it's all right.
Aye.
My worry is that's not what the documents say. I'm a stickler for follow what the SQ say, because I'm not. I don't like trouble here. I'm not teaching computing science. I'm teaching how to pass exams. There's a wee bit of a difference sometimes. If you walk on cool stuff, let's come up at lunch after school. But we've got a job to do.
Yeah.
You can get into uni, and then you can, or a graduate apprenticeship, or whatever it is you're doing, and then you can start to learn other things. So yeah.
So let's just check in that one with Morag. And we'll add that to the question bit up the top. Because you would have that kind of main menu as well if you were doing software, and I'm trying to think about it in other places. Because we need to be a bit sensible too.
Yeah, it adds a lot, right? Because if you had a main menu in a computer game, right, and it said instructions, play and quit, you need to validate all three of those button clicks because they're inputs. And it's validating enough to say, whatever, Tkinter handles validation by ensuring the click is within that range, or it just there's so many forms of open-ended project like this. There's so many ways kids can go, but when they default to gravitate towards games and stuff like that, they're going to have common issues. So. Yeah, or even a good idea maybe would be to watch. I know it takes a long time, but maybe watch part of a project get marked. If we had, say what I just showed there, if a marker was to be no, that's crap, this is good, that needs changed, to follow through, because then you can see what your kids are going to get put up against, and you'd be oh man, my kids are going to get ripped to shreds here. I need to bring that in, So I understand how the machine works is probably key to success.
Yep. So us, I don't know whether we could do a full project, but us coming up with here's a good one, here's a bad one. We need to make it ourselves. Obviously, children couldn't. And then that discussion about what makes those ones good and what's making that one. And we did touch on that last year. But yeah, maybe that's something for us to be looking at, Sean.
Yeah, I'm a big. It's we're trying to teach teachers, right? But we're trying to teach them without showing them the answer. What's going on? Nuts, totally nuts. You would never ever do that with the kids ever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So why do we treat adults differently? And I get because it's an exam, right? Yeah. But every project has to be different. They can't just submit the same project. A kid couldn't take that, or I wouldn't let a kid take that off me and just write music website and just it's the same. I got not happening. You need to have your own spin on there. And maybe some of the additional features are different because I'm sorting or something, or whatever. But
you've with that website. Now I've not looked at the web element. I don't, we don't do the web. We do software, the databases. I've not looked at it. Although we teach the web, I don't look at the project stuff for it. But you've just proven what Gordon says, that you could do an advanced hire project in 50 pages.
Aye. 10 pages, did I say? I think Gordon said 10 pages.
I
Yeah.
think the number comes down, just depends.
Aye.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He says
You
that
can.
because
Mhm.
if you stick with what you're
Yeah.
being asked to do, then
Yeah.
um,
Like, see, if you don't have to show a full project. See, if you were to show it, literally just like the purpose at the start and then the requirements,
Mhm.
like that's enough to be like, oh, okay, you know. Like, you don't need to give them all the code for how to do it and stuff, or teachers, but like just saying this is the sort of scope we are thinking about. And I know the project document has that, like the example, but that's not been put into the template. And when you try, that's a skill in of itself, because you have to break the problem down. And like, it's not as simple as being like this one bullet point in the example project. That might be 3 functional requirements when you break it down. You know, like, load the data. I need to clean the data for whatever it is, and then I need to display it. Like, it becomes multiple parts depending on what you're doing. So yeah, I think it's or even just working in a team would be a good idea. Like, if you were to get on and be like, right, we're going to build a database major.
So, Sean, can I ask you a question? Because I do like this idea. The last time we spoke to Brendan's in here, I don't know if he can talk because he's recording, but the last time we were speaking to Brendan about doing the event, he was wondering if some sort of hybrid event would be good. So, like, for what you're saying there, that sounds to me like it would actually be better in person.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's better in person. I think the likelihood of people turning up is a whole other kettle of fish, you know. Or
Yeah.
I don't know if STACS records, like, if they can see how many people view videos and things like that. But yeah,
Because I think what you're talking about there, that would be much better in person, because you know, just that whole collaboration, and that's what we want. That's what we want STACS to be about. That community, that collaboration. I mean, I would be more than happy to be at an event and to be helping at an event if we can get, you know, people to come.
yeah. I mean, I would tune in to a recording or a live session of, like, Dave, if you were just like, I'm going to talk through how I would think about a database project, right? And it's being like, I'm going to do a database about movies. What are the requirements for a database project? I need this, this, and this. And then watching you try to type things in the document and going through the problem solving, and like, oh, that won't work. Like that would be good to see that sort of process. Like, it's like what the kids would have to do, you know, but with that guidance for adult.
Right. I think we can. That's something that we can certainly do. That's something else we've spoken about is, right.
Yeah.
So Brendan's saying if we can even get 5 to 6 people from schools that are near each other and willing to go out and be with people, at your, not like at our location, we'll come to you. There's something that Brendan's saying there, so that's something that we can think about. But yeah, we've spoken about doing videos and what we can do and putting them out there and doing some recordings just ourselves.
We're changing the format and some stuff. Yeah.
David's even been saying about us doing podcasts, which scares the bejesus out of me. But that, yeah, absolutely. If that will work.
Yeah, almost kind of having like live videos that you can kind of go and watch in your own time. But with that comes, you know, the production value of learning how to produce something of quality that would be shared. So, like, I would absolutely love to do a video, and I can do it face to face. I've done it face to face loads of times, but for me, like, recording my screen and talking to the screen and recording live and being self-aware of that and making sure it's good at the same time, it's just it's just trying to do that.
There's one thing just doing a quick video for the kids to tune in and you make a couple of mistakes, another thing for us. But yeah, it's something I think going forward, that is something I think we need to think about.
Yeah, definitely. No, thanks so much for coming along. It would be we were actually worried that it was just going to be the 3 of us beforehand, so it is amazing that people come. It's the whole reason why we do this is to try and just help people as much as possible, and we definitely don't know all the answers, but we'll do our best to find them out.
Yeah,
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.